Welcome everyone to Business Source, brought to you by Connecting Business, the show that gives you authentic conversations as always to help your business. As usual, there's no smoke and mirrors, just real people and their experiences, sharing them with you. I'm your host, Lee Nightingale, and today I'm delighted to be joined by an amazing entrepreneur, Roland Vanbuchin. Roland is Managing Director of VANX Digital, a successful book author, and an all-round, very highly motivated individual. There's so much more to him. I'm really excited to get into it with him. So let's get into it. Roland, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Lee, thank you. It's an absolute honor.
Excellent. Roland, gosh, where do we start? I think what I'd like to do is if you can just introduce the business, VANX Digital, what it is you do. Well, and just in a short summary, we'll dig deeper into it, and then I want to jump back to your life story, if you like, of how you got to where you are today.
Of course. 29 years of age, young, wild, enthusiastic, international background, enterprise software business. But before we go into all of this stuff, Lee, actually, I would love to share with the audience how we got actually in touch. We was in touch with a person that is working on a project with us, and they marked you in a post where I was running in Switzerland when it was snow and jumping into ice cold water. So that was the whole introduction, how this whole setup came across. So I'm very enthusiastic to be here. Basically, I would love to give the audience some value with the story that I went through, with some motivation some people can take from it. Just take what you like and discard what you don't like, but this will be hell of a story, because right now I'm 29 years of age. Over the last 3 years, I worked in a $40 billion company and trained people in Hong Kong, Geneva, all around the globe how to sell. So that was an enthusiastic story, but it was not always like this, like it's always been. It is a classical Russian immigrant story. So when I was born, it was the collapse of the former Soviet Union, which ended up in Germany. So we went as refugees to Germany, 10 years, no passport, nothing, absolute horrible conditions. And you can imagine when the Russians arrived in Germany, and a lot of Russians arrived in Germany, the Germans wasn't too thrilled about it. So that was just the starting point of the whole thing. And, you know, in life, it's like in poker. You need to play your cards even if life deals you with a bad hand. And we just took everything that was in our disadvantage to our advantage. So that means everything that happened to me and happened to all the team that we have in the company was because of good upbringing and a lot of luck involved. Because you can't do anything by yourself. It's always a lot of people. So am I allowed to give you a little bit more of the story from when we arrived in Germany? Because I think it's very important to understand. Look, something that I've seen in business, especially in these large companies like Microsoft, like Google, like we work with these guys, these people, they went into the finest schools. They went to the finest schools, finest education. They really, life was handed to them on a golden plate. But you know what was missing, Lee? The pure determination, you know?
Yes.
So can you imagine, what are your thoughts when you visualize a young man with red hair in an environment in a $40 billion company, 800 people in one office, everybody is like well-spoken, well-educated, and just one guy is just doing 200 cold calls a day. Like, they will not like it. They will not, you know, and that was the whole story. So maybe you can tell me a little bit before we go on with me, what are your thoughts on people that are in my age that are in this industry right now in tech?
Wow. Great question. And to be honest with you, because this podcast is about being authentic and true and real and saying what we mean in a respectful way, of course. And I don't want to tar everybody with this brush, but that motivation that you're talking about there, it feels like it's all too easy to say, oh, this isn't working out. Yeah, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go somewhere else. You know, I'm not being successful. I'm not earning the money I want to be earning here, and yet they don't seem to want to get off their backsides and do something about it. And ultimately, they don't want to be responsible for their own actions and their own destiny. There's always another factor. There's always something else to blame. And the minute we kind of do that, we're disempowering ourselves, right? By empowering yourselves and saying, look, whatever happens, good, bad, indifferent, I'm going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to analyze why it went well. I'm going to analyze why it didn't go well. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take responsibility for it. And I just I don't get that sense. And as I say, I don't want to tar everybody with that brush. There's some extremely wonderful, talented people out there, but there's also a mass of people.
Let me give you something here. Let me give you something. Something that I came across a lot over the year was stoicism. Okay, you only focus what is in your craft, and you try to not waste any energy on external factors, and you operate only with one plan, no plan B. So let me jump back to the story. Arriving in Germany, 10 years no passport, school, of course. When you are an entrepreneur, you only learn it later on. So for everyone out there that is right now still educating himself to land a job, to land a career, to start a business, I think it's very important to understand that in school, the person wins who's doing the least mistakes. In business, the person wins who is doing the most mistakes and not repeat them again. So in school, it was a disaster. It was disaster. Failed 9th grade, worst education, no private school, all public stuff. And what happened then was that when I was around 17 years of age and I started writing application to companies, my mother bought for 50 marks, 50 stamps for letters. Okay, so that means we was able to send 50 letters to companies that I applied for a job. Guess how many responded?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. 0, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So that was not the ideal situation for parents that relocated from a collapsing state to give their son an opportunity to rise up and live a better life, and nobody wants to hire them. So with that in mind, we was writing application like hell. And then, of course, when you are 17, what you like to do, you want to go out, you want to do the nightclubs, etc. So I was big in this, and I ended up doing an event manager role in the nightclub scene. It sounds now very fancy, but what it was 3 nightclubs, and they all had this huge beer barrels and a lot of amount of drinks. And what I was responsible when the truck came with all the beer barrels, I was the one with 17 years of age who need to put all the stuff, the heavy stuff, into the nightclub every single day, 7 days a week. So it was everything then glamorous, but it was 7 days a week grinding. And that's the moment when I start, okay, I need to be better and I need to specialize in something, because physical work does not reward anything. Okay, that was the starting point. So I went back into school, made an education, met a person who was in a family business, and they told me, Roland, man, you know this event stuff, let's do business with us. I said, no, I want to finish school, I want to really rise higher. I said, no, hey, we make you a great offer, and by that time it seems like a lot of money. It seems like a lot of money. I said, okay, let's do it. Fast forward, I ended up again in a family company, worked 7 days a week again, and this time carrying heavy kitchen equipment, aka catering, from one exhibition to the next. Then I said, man, it can't go on like this. So I was 23 years of age, over 6 years working these crappy jobs, and jobs equal just over broke. And I just did not have any person who can give me guidance, because where I lived, there was a bunch of immigrants, there was a bunch of unemployment, and I just did not have had access. At this time, there was still no Facebook, no nothing. So I did not have access to this knowledge. So maybe you also seen this, that young people sometimes are lost because they just don't have the right direction, right? And
Yeah.
that was the state where I was found. Maybe before I continue, you want to jump in on something here?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that, and that's okay because when I left school, and when I was well in the months leading up to leaving school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career. I went to art college and did a graphic design 2-year diploma course, but at that time when I came out, it was really difficult time in that economy, and there just weren't that many jobs, and I thought, do I really want to go to university and spend another 3 years doing something like this to then come out and still not have that kind of career and know that it's such a difficult career to get into? Or perhaps, if I'm brutally honest with myself, I'm just not good enough, and it's never gonna work. So you have to ask yourself those difficult questions. So I didn't go to university. And so you kind of like, well, what am I going to do? And it's okay, people learn, or people have that light bulb moment of what they want to do and be at different times. There's no set agenda that when you leave school you have to know what you want to be, or when you're 5 years old and your parents would ask you what you want to be when you grow up, that you have to know the answer. That's BS. You find your own path, and something will stand out. But if you don't put yourself out there and you don't try lots of different things and speak to lots of different people and learn lots of different things as much as you can, it's difficult to then identify what that thing is, that passion that you, or that industry, that role, that job that you feel passionate about. So that's okay. And even still, when you find that moment, making it happen isn't always easy, and that's okay. Recognizing that it's easy, that it's not easy, is okay, and recognizing that you need the help to make it happen is okay. So when I started out my company, I very quickly got a business coach, a mentor, somebody who could guide me through so that I didn't make those mistakes, because I'd had a long career in software sales and sales operations and everything, and I understood how a business operated, but I didn't really fully understand and appreciate even the deeper level beyond just how all the processes and the tech and the different departments. So all the legal stuff and documents you have to have, and registering your company and getting domain names, and
But you
sorting
know
out
what is the most
marketing.
important? Even if you don't know all this stuff, when we look at the stuff, how did you actually get into the entrepreneurial life, or how somebody actually starts his own company or finds his own industry or finds this job or passion? What is truly the key that I discovered, if you do 7 days a week something you absolutely don't like, you will pretty fast figure out what you want. So there's another strategy. If you seriously do 7 days a week something that absolutely sucks, you know by Friday in which area you want to go. So
Yeah.
let me jump on this one. So when I was 24, I had this wake-up call that I had a girlfriend of mine, and her father was a director in the software industry. Like, I had no idea about server, open API, and any of this stuff, nothing. And he told me, you need to go to Dublin, because in Dublin there are all the software companies in Europe and they are hiring. And by that time, I was not quite sure if this is a right move, because I was in these shitty jobs. Then I say, hey, I don't want to be there anymore. So I quit. I resigned. I sold both of my cars. I invested everything in the finance market with the hope to place a Lamborghini in front of the door. Like, that was truly the key. I said, either I would drive with the bicycle or place the Lamborghini. Of course, I didn't end up in the Lamborghini, so you know the story now. And then I say, okay, I went bankrupt. I was driving basically with nothing. And we started selling door to door. We started selling door to door because where my office was, there was a Croatian guy who had the Bavarian solar community, and they sold this solar panels, to make your own energy. And so I was crushing it door to door, and they trained me. I pretty much figured out what the art of selling was. And I give to you as an example, if you are an owner of a house and you want to have some renewable energy, and I will consult you how great it is, etc. You want to do 3-4 offers before you make a 40, 50, 60,000 decision, right? But imagine somebody came up to your house and say, hey, Lee, I look at the roof and, you know, the degree and the southwest coordination, it doesn't look quite right. And we actually spoke with the neighbor last week, and the government said, hey, it doesn't work in this area. And then they want to try. Then they want to find out if it's working. Then they want to know if they can do it on their house. So I sold with the strategy a lot. And then I say, hey, come on, let's take the commission, transition to Dublin. And that's where the whole fun began.
So you did the reverse psychology. No, you can't have it.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Now give me.
I mean, it speaks to us when, you know, when we're kids, you know, you tell a kid, your kids don't do that, that you can't have this, and they want it more. So and I understand that. But you're right, you know, Dublin 5, 10, 15 years ago was definitely a hotspot for tech companies, primarily because it was a tax avoidance scenario. Call it tax efficiency if you want, but really avoidance is where it's at. So yeah, they were hiring, and there's still a lot of companies out there, although they have changed the regulations somewhat. So of course, then people were like, okay, let's open an office in India, because, you know, the labor's cheap. But what they didn't realize, and a lot of people don't realize, is it's extremely difficult for a non-Indian resident to own 100% of an Indian business entity. They just don't allow it. You can only own like 51% or 49%. You can't have the majority share. It's really difficult to do that. But I'm sure they had some fancy lawyers to help them get around it. But so you're now in Dublin. You've escaped this former Soviet Union. You've had an extremely difficult.
It's going to be more crazy. No,
Yeah.
Okay, we're going back. Soviet Union collapsed, ended up Germany. 10 years no passport. They didn't give us a passport because the state collapsed. So you are no passport. They forced you every week to go to the government if they will send you back for 10 years every week. Can you imagine what crazy of a pressure level this was for the parents? Like for me, it's no problem because I was a young. But for a grown person, if they will send you back in the country or don't, you do this every week, that leaves some deep marks.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I done the decision, okay, let's do it B2B, let's do tech, because I'm tired of B2C. I don't want to be in that business. I don't want to meet somebody in their home and sell them within 35 minutes a renewable energy and tell them, hey, it's not working, and then they want it, and then of course the deal gets through.
Yeah.
I said, no, we need to go in the high level. But the problem with the high level was I couldn't speak English. Zero. Because of my brilliance in school, I couldn't speak English. I had no idea about tech. So I booked one night in the guest house, and I booked a one-way ticket, and I had a woman who have done for me the English test with a company who was a sub provider for Dropbox Business. I failed the English test because I've done it the first time myself. Then I told them, hey, sorry, I was super busy. I didn't pay attention. I invited the girl that I knew. She done the test for me. They called me, Roland, congratulations. The only thing I was able to say was yes. Yes. So with that in mind, I transitioned to Dublin, one night guest house. And when you arrive in a foreign country, you can speak the language with only one night and 3,200 euros in cash. That's all I had. 3,200. Never met the company, never met the director. The guy from the guest house told me, Roland, I actually looked at the booking. You actually booked for 3 nights because it was September 2016 and it was peak student season. I say, yes, of course. The next day I woke up. He told me, Roland, sorry, I misspelled your name with another Ronald. You don't have 3 days. You have to leave. So on that day, on the very first day in this country, I had the introduction meeting with the company I signed the contract with, and I had to relocate, and every other hotel is booked, packed, and you can imagine my skills on the phone in English back then.
Wow. How did that work out?
Okay,
Do you want to go into that?
I ask myself this till today. So, as I've never done cold calls at this stage, only door-to-door sales, I was using the phone and calling everybody up. I called everybody up and I was just watching on the internet which application is coming up. Is there a new flat coming up? Someone posted a new flat, etc. So I was sitting there and watching, refreshing. And I've seen one apartment that had so bad pictures, Lee. It had so bad pictures that I said, man, nobody will apply on this one. It has so bad pictures, like it was hilarious. And it was a studio apartment. I was able to meet with the person. It cost ridiculously low amount of money. I've done it. 2 days later, I bought a motorbike. Even I didn't have a motorbike license, but it was the cheapest way for me to get around, as I only had 3,200. Now I need to pay the deposit for the studio apartment, 1,000 for the motorbike, and I had 1,000 left. Real story, within 72 hours. And I met the company and I introduced myself, and I on purpose, I wore green pants and a very fancy shirt and big glasses, that they think I'm a little bit goofy. Because when somebody's goofy, you don't think that they will do harm, or like he's
Right.
just goofy, he's fine. And then a guy who was actually able to speak German say, hey man, you did not really pull up here without any English. Man, I love it. And then she told to the directors, because they all looked very skeptical, like, how the hell did this guy end up here? Like, he has done the test, right? Didn't he? And he said, look, his German is fabulous. Just leave him in the German market. He will do fine. I started, of course, this thing didn't work out. 6 weeks later, I got fired due to quality issues. This, of course. But the good thing in Dublin, what you said, the people were hiring. The tech companies were hiring. And they hire normally for the native language. So that means Italian people in Dublin work Italian market. Spanish people work Spanish market. German people work German market. So I was in conversation with BMC Software, and keep in mind, I signed the contract for 21,000 with Dropbox Business, and I sold renewable energy around 560,000 in 6 weeks. So the commission was more than my yearly salary that I signed in Dublin, which I got fired from. 21,000 a year that was stolen. It was really a hilarious deal, and I still got fired. So I was in touch with the recruiters from day one, and I had several offers: Microsoft, BMC Software, and another company. And BMC Software is notorious for IT infrastructure discovery, large data centers, over 1,000 servers. Only speak with CIOs, head of data centers, about very expensive technology. And I was calling my grandfather. I say, hey, I'm on the website. I have no idea what they do. What do you think? And he said, Roland, just go for it.
Well, yeah, I agree. So I was an estate agent when I did that college course, graphic design, bummed around. Well, I wouldn't say bummed around a bit. I did that manual labor, worked on a building site for a while in my very early days, worked in a car accessories shop. And the estate agency business went back to that. And then one day, I was working. I got this interview at a call center selling desktop publishing and drawing graphics software. A company called Serif, still going today. Outbound calling, telemarketing, basically selling to the B2C, selling the target was £600 worth of this software every day to people at home, like selling £100 bundles of software, having to make 150 to 200 call attempts a day, actually dialing numbers, no clicking and dialing numbers. So I feel like I've served my apprenticeship at the bottom. I've done software sales at the lowest level possible, the hardest level. And I remember doing that, and then I went for an interview with this company around the 2000 period, the dot-com bubble, unfortunately. But I remember driving to the interview, and my mom will confirm this. We were driving to the interview, and I'm reading the paperwork for this company, and it starts going blah blah blah, blah, and it starts talking about WANs and LANs, wide area networks and local area networks. And I said, Mom, I have no idea what these words mean, but all I know is it sounds really cool. And I know I've got this tech thing, there's an interest. I want to know what these things mean. And I can just see that that there's a market here. So I turned up to that interview not even knowing what a WAN was, what a LAN was. I'd never even sent an email, and I was going to an interview with a tech company. And so you don't have to have all the perfect skills. You don't have to know everything. In fact, I'm a great believer. There's no point moving jobs to go and do the same thing where you'll learn nothing. What's the point? If you're only going to do it because the motivation is you want more money.
You only move to level up. You only move to level up. And what you really need is, when you listen at this and you want to elevate, is you need some big balls. That's what you need at the end of the day. Because when I signed for 21,000 in Dropbox and I transitioned to BMC software, and they told me, Roland, we are not hiring just a guy that can speak English, has red hair, and just tells us a story why he went separate ways after 6 weeks with the other company. We want to have a 1-hour presentation how you would target the CIO of the German bank. And now keep in mind, Lee, I've never seen the corporate offices. I've never seen to this stage these large conference rooms, these boardrooms, etc. So when they told me to do this, I was calling 5 guys up and said, guys, let's do some research about the CIO from the German bank. No social media, no LinkedIn, no Xing, no YouTube, no Instagram, nothing. You don't find nothing. That's why they gave me the hardest task, because they thought he will anyway never get it. What I found out, now, I found out, that is a sad story, but it got healthy again. I found out that the woman had a child and a husband, and the husband created a foundation because he had cancer, and he created the foundation with the name of the family. And I looked up who bought the domain for the site, and based on this information, I was able to locate where her address was, home address, street, everything, because I've seen the information. So instead of preparing a 1-hour presentation in PowerPoint, because I never opened PowerPoint at that stage, I went in, placed my phone. You need to visualize a boardroom, 16 seats, big walls, big screens, everything like pure corporate BMC software. And I placed the screenshot with her phone number in front of 3 directors. They were all sitting like this in the meeting. And I told them, do you want that I call her now? Their jaw crushed on the floor. They couldn't believe how I came up with this information, etc. So, of course, they gave me the worst deal ever, 50,000 for a year contract. And it was cold calling. So I knew I'm not smarter, but the only thing that is in my control, what you said before, is how much you put in. So with the amount of action.
Exactly. Being honest with yourself, recognizing those gaps, learning, reaching out to people, but those big balls, as you put it, use that as motivation, use it as determination. Don't use it as an excuse not to do something, right? Don't just sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Just take risks. Try different ways, unique ways. The more you try and you can show evidence that you've tried, you might not get to the ideal outcome of what they've asked for. So in their case, they asked you to do a presentation. You didn't get to that outcome, but you showed determination in other ways that proved that you weren't, that you were somebody that was not going to let things lie, and you weren't going to cave in, and you weren't going to go, oh, this is too difficult, too hard. I think that's what I was talking about when you asked me about the telemarketing industry. It feels like people cave in too early because it's too difficult, because they've never done a really difficult job before, like the 7 days a week manual labor.
The cold calling. When you said you have done 200 dials with your fingerprints, the thing that you are really good is you know where the numbers are and can dial faster than anybody else. And I've done the same. So when I was in BMC, 120 calls every single day. 7 a.m. arrived, 8 p.m. leaving. So 7 till 6, I do the calls. After this, I do the follow-up every single day. I've never been in Spain to this point. I've never been in London to this point. I've never seen the US to this point. I was able to break all company records on the phone within 11 months. They incentivized me to Vegas, to New York, North Carolina, train people here, do this. And I was thinking, how ridiculous is this when you arrive in a sales open floor and you just do more calls than anybody, and your pitch gets better, your objection handling gets better, your voice gets better, the pause you do gets better when you write everything. So I say, man, let me just put in here the hours, let me just put in here the dials, and 20,000 dials later, Oracle Corporation, because I always posted on social media, Q4 exceeded 200%, Q1 exceeded 300%. Oracle Corporation called me directly, say, hey, they have an offer in Amsterdam. I said,
Nice.
for a Russian savage, Amsterdam is, they call it Amsterdamage, because you need to go in and get out alive. So that's where I was, and still unexperienced, still no idea. And now you need to, when you would be in that situation and the management from Oracle would ask you to do a presentation again, and you have now one shot, how much would you put in?
Everything. I would put everything into it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But what did you put in? Yeah.
One shot. So I went from 21,000 to 50,000. Now I'm going to 100,000. So, and they give me this interview. Oracle was hiring 1,000 people in the Netherlands because they was seriously taking on the cloud war with Amazon, with Google, and they want to be the #1 company that takes all the market share in the space. And they have the resources, they have the people. With 144,000 people and 40 billion in revenue, they are one of the largest companies, and they are excellent in this, excellent. So I said, you know what? When I had this interview with the woman who was hiring, and I'm very blessed that she gave me this chance to do this interview. When you have a phone interview with a manager and you want to do a job, 99% of the time, the manager asks the candidate questions. I said, hold on, let me turn it into a sale, because selling is about asking questions. I said, hold on, before we start this interview, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Can you tell me more about this? What are your thoughts on this? What are you looking for in a candidate? Which attributes do you think people need in order to be successful? I ask, and she told me, Roland, you will cover 1,000 companies. I say, "Poh." So you know what I've done? I went home, I researched 1,000 companies. I segmented them into industries. I put in a whole pipeline plan, territory plan, everything, put everything into, and then I said I want 120.
Nice. And of course they said yes. I mean, there would be.
And then all of a sudden, from studio apartment with 3,200 in cash, you sign for a contract which was never ever accessible before, never ever. So I end up in this corporation in Amsterdam, where everybody, without exception, has a minimum bachelor, master, or doctor title, a PhD. Everyone. They hire the smartest of the smartest, because the technology is very complex. It's very difficult to expect. You know all about. I mean, which experience have you done in the tech industry when you speak with decision makers?
God, I mean, so I worked for a startup reseller trying to sell antivirus, internet security type stuff. I went to go and work for one of the UK's leading distributors, and was an inside salesperson for Trend Micro and WebSense security software. Worked my way through that company, became a product specialist there. So I was responsible for hundreds of thousands of pounds a quarter in revenue through resellers. And then I got an opportunity to go and work for WebSense, the vendor themselves. So I moved from my hometown down to London and went to work for the vendor. And so, yeah, it makes me laugh because I've got clients now where salespeople are bitching and moaning about how much work they've got to do when they've got like 50, 60, 70 clients to renew each year. And you know, they've got like a £300,000 target or something. I'm like, guys, you have no idea. You know, so I explained the story about the cold calling on the phone, the 200 call attempts a day, they're selling £100 software packages. And then I also talk about having $1 million target, having to renew 200 clients every year. And I wasn't alone on that. Everybody in the company had a roughly 200 accounts to renew every year with $1 million target. And we did it. We didn't sit back and moan. You just got on and did it because we got rewarded nicely for it. You know, we were on pretty good remuneration packages. So why are you going to moan? Your phone is ringing with people saying, "Hi, can I buy your stuff?" So first of all, you're not even selling, you're order taking. And when you do call people, they're like, "Oh yeah, WebSense, yeah, I know you, yeah, you guys are the leading vendor, blah blah blah. Yeah, tell me more." So they're like rolling over. So you're not really selling. Uh,
But this
so
was a whole different story, Lee, because they hired 1,000 people, so the market had no awareness in the cloud space. So you
right,
need to visualize an office with around 1,000 people. Let's say it was 800 with no market awareness. So
but
all they
is this
do
around the
is
same time
outbound.
where because obviously cloud was becoming a thing, and this is where Mark Benioff separated from Oracle and started Salesforce, where because he was like, yeah, you know, I was working at Oracle, but I really think there's something in this cloud thing, and he left Oracle and started Salesforce by raising $30 million from his friends as he shares, but yeah, so that must have been around that same sort of time.
So basically, Mark was Mark was the youngest vice president in Oracle's history, and when Mark left, the current CTO Larry Ellison, who was the founder of Oracle, who grew 10 years 100% every year, invested in Salesforce. So even if he lost a VP, he invested and make big returns back. But
Yeah.
let me stay on the Amsterdam stuff. 800 people, smartest in the room, nicest in the room, people from all around the globe, Spain, Italy, France, all everywhere, young, between 26 and 33. That was around the age. And I've done this. They told me, Roland, here are 700 accounts, do business in them. And it was that time when I realized, hey, the cold calls are not cutting it anymore, 2018. Because to cold call 700 people, it is ridiculous amount of work to stay in the hold line, to get referred, etc. So
Yeah.
I said, and now we come to this, to the core of this episode of connecting people. I said, okay, how can I differentiate around all 800 people, around all guys from Cisco, from SAP, from Google, that target the same CIO, they target the same founder, they target the same managing director. And then I've started with personalized video messages. I started with personalized video messages to decision makers, and they were horrible. I didn't have the right camera. It was too long. It was too fluffy. No call to action and stuff. Fast forward the entire office, because I was able to break all the records, because the amount of videos the people received, I've done it scalable. So I've done videos for an account, and the video can be forwarded within an account. So everybody wanted to have meetings with me. So I was in the plane every single week, from one meeting to the other to the other. And everybody else was sitting in the office, trying to reach people on the phone, and they start hating it, because all the manager was pointing at this guy, hey, do also the videos, do the videos. And videos is the thing, it must come a little bit naturally. If you feel very uncomfortable doing it, you will sense it in the camera. And the biggest
Absolutely, yeah.
difference between camera and phone, when you do cold calls, you can hide in a booth and nobody will hold you accountable. But when you pitch in the camera, everybody can rewatch it. How great is your pitch?
Yeah.
And that's why people go away from it. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I agree, and congratulations, first of all, on that entire journey. It's far more brutal than anything that I would have ever experienced. But the You're right, and clearly doing this kind of thing, the recording podcast for those listening via the audio, apologize, but the video, that we're doing here, I'm posting this out on to YouTube, so I'm putting myself at risk and my business at risk by having people see who I am, how I interact, my facial expressions. There's no way for us to hide these things. These podcasts that we do here are unedited. I don't chop out the bits that we get wrong, or if we say something we don't mean, no, this is almost as if it was streamed live, and that puts a lot of pressure on people, and sometimes that's just not for everybody. But what I believe it does is it shows the authenticity. It shows who you really are, because you can't maintain it for a long period of time. But I really like the short intro video, because what it says is, I'm prepared to do something different. I'm prepared to show you who I am. I'm prepared to look you in the eye, and let's get this thing on.
I'm prepared to do mistakes and do
Yes,
out of my comfort zone. And
absolutely.
now what happens? Now, Lee, I need to get you to the, otherwise we run out of time. Switzerland. What is Switzerland notorious for? Banking, money, rich. That's Switzerland. Average salary 10,000, 20,000 a month. It's Switzerland. Lowest taxes, hardest to get in. Switzerland accepts less than 900 people a year that are not Swiss to get into the country and work. Most difficult thing. So I was at that stage in the Netherlands, and I was thinking, hey, I want to be a sales trainer. I want to train young people how to do this stuff because it's working so well, and I see everybody else struggling. So I was flying to Singapore and meeting a person who was the director at Oracle Corporation, who was in charge, the global director for all the sales trainers in Singapore. And I told him, look, I want to be a sales trainer, hire me. I want to be here in Singapore. And they said, Roland, how many hours on stage do you have? I said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, look, when the average salary of a person is 100,000 and there are 100 people in the room, can you imagine how much the company costs when they get trained 1 hour and the trainer messes up the training? Like we are too big to make experience on this one. And I said, man, I have no stage experience. I have nothing. Okay. Then I flew back to Amsterdam and I went into the busiest street. It's a Rembrandtplatz. And I placed a camera there. Thousands of people crossing. And I stand there, put in the microphone, and I made a hyper-personalized video message to the guy. And I said, listen, I am not nervous if there are 1,000 people walking, listening, talking. I have such confidence that I can do it even without the stage experience. Then they gave me an offer. New York gave me an offer. Australia gave me an offer. And then somebody posted a job application. They're hiring a social media influencer and business development manager at the Oracle Corporation in Switzerland. And I always wanted to be in Switzerland because this is just the country that I want to be in. And somebody marked me under this LinkedIn post. And at that time, because of all the videos, I have reached over 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, just pure pushing out content, no paid advertising. All tech people, all decision makers in this community, a lot of sales people in the community, tech, the biggest names. And somebody marked me under this post as a job application on LinkedIn. And sometimes in life, you need to help yourself with luck, right? And I said, I was thinking, how can I get this job in a smart way? Because it's an influencer role. I wrote a WhatsApp message to 50 contacts. Hey, mate, mark me under this post. Just at Roland Vanbuchin, at Roland Vanbuchin, at Roland Vanbuchin, at Roland Vanbuchin. So the job application has 2 hours later, 50 times my names in the comment below from 50 different people. Next day, 7:30, the corporation is calling. Roland, man, you was referred from so many people for this open application in Switzerland. Are you open to talk? I said, listen, I'm currently very busy as I speak with Singapore and New York, but you can send me 2 potential dates and I will come back to you. Of course, again, the reverse selling. Okay. Long
So,
story short, in Switzerland, it is the core of the database business. Oracle does only do business with the top 1%. Nestle, biggest accounts, Glencore, 400 billion in revenue. That's Switzerland. That's the biggest of the big. They are all in Switzerland, the large companies headquartered, because they pay zero tax virtually. So this is where we at. And they wanted to have somebody that can change the behavior of the older people in the company, which are 50 plus on social media, and engage with decision makers with video message and digital on LinkedIn and build a presence. So these are the person they were hiring. And guess what? They were hiring the crazy guy.
the red-haired Russian.
So, and then I was speaking again with my grandpa. What do you think? He said, man, these people in Switzerland are sharks. Everybody earns over $250,000 every year. They are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the business, virtually all of them millionaires. And millionaire as an employee is way more difficult than to be a millionaire as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely,
so these
yeah.
people are killer, quarterly driven business, hard deadlines, etc. So on my first day, I fast forward now, in the office in Switzerland, it was an 8 a.m. meeting 2 days before Christmas, because I did not take any day off when I was working at the corporation. So I had so many holidays left. I took holiday, transitioned to Switzerland earlier, meet with the guys at 8 a.m. It was a board meeting of 5 people, everybody 55 plus, and they welcomed me in the meeting like this.
Yeah, the usual.
What do you want now?
Yeah.
Get it? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So when you sit across 5 people who are killers, everybody is a millionaire, who are self-made, they have 30 years tech experience, and you come in and need to convince them that they need to build a presence online, how exciting were they? Zero. Okay? Everybody crossed arms and they say, Roland, what can you do?
You can't teach us anything, right? We know, you know, we're old dogs. We don't want to learn new tricks, but also look at our past, look at our experience, look at what we've achieved. But they're forgetting the major rule, which is you're only as good as your last sale. What about your next one? And if that next one stops, if the sales environment changes, and you haven't moved and pivoted and adapted, and you're stuck in those old selling ways, well,
so what you need then, regardless if you wear my shoes or in any other shoes, you need to win the respect. How can you win the respect of somebody? Because everybody sends BS straight up. You sense it. You know when somebody is not real. You know when somebody, it's kind of shady. So I say, okay, in this office are 160 people. Everybody's doing really a ton of money, and nobody is younger than 45 years of age. Okay, that was the scenario. In my introduction email to everybody, I said meeting 8 a.m. Wednesday. Okay, everybody there. I booked the largest conference room, which had space for over 100 people. I removed every chair, every table, and it was a blank room. And I placed only one table in the middle. It was a standing table with a phone and a screen. And I said, which is the most difficult client to get in? And they told us Glencore. Glencore is doing 400 billion in revenue, and we target the CIO. So visualize, it was my second day, Oracle Switzerland, introduction 8 a.m. 120 managers, directors, vice president, enterprise field sales people are in this room. Nobody can sit down, and everybody's standing like this. It was the less comfortable they have been for the last 30 years. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, let me show you who I am. And I've done cold calls in the front of 120 people on loudspeaker. And on the 6th attempt, I got the CIO from Glencore on the phone, because I told the person on the reception that I'm calling Mr. X because he called me back. So this is the reason for the call. Otherwise, they would never let me through. I sneaked around. I got to him. I told him, hey, man, we didn't had any touching point yet. This is for me very important. Let's schedule a meeting. He said yes. You know what these 120 people were? They didn't like it, but I won their respect. I won their respect because To do a cold call is one thing. To do a cold call in front of a loudspeaker is another thing. To do a cold call in a company where you just got hired again and they can fire you and send you back where you came from, there's this huge risks. But sometimes these risks are necessary to win the respect. So with this one respect, I worked with one by one and mastered this personalized video messages, and we increased pipeline, deals, projects on a scale that we went to Tokyo, we went to Geneva, we went to Austria, and we expanded the whole thing. And to make a long story short, sometimes you need to do things that are unprecedented. You need to stand out, you need to take risks, and only if you take risks, then you will have a reward, and a reward that you desire. Because I started out with 21,000 a year. We're talking here over 250,000 within 3 years. That is 10x. That is 10 with what? No study. So to make this to an end from the story, and then we go into Q&A. After doing this for 3 years and the lockdown hit in 2020, and I knew that this is the greatest moment for rising entrepreneurs to take action, I resigned. I put everything into the company. I wrote the book, and now we are in the largest corporations around the globe involved in their video strategy to enable their sales reps to reach decision makers with personalized video messages that can grab the attention and drive more business.
Fantastic. I really like the LinkedIn, hey, WhatsApp groups, please can you tag me 50 times in this post. You're effectively creating your own bot. Using your network to go and do that. If that happened now, I think a lot of people would think there was a bot network that was doing all these taggings. I want to get into how you differentiate yourself from something like Vidyard. So Vidyard is a video recording tech embedded within your web browser, where you can just go, hey, Mr. CEO, I'm Lee from Connecting Business. I really want to have a sales call with you, and here's why. Yours are very different, aren't they? And I'd love for you to share why.
Let's go one step back here and let's see who are we actually targeting. If you target a person who's responsible for several millions in revenue, and these people get 60 emails every day, 40 phone calls, they even have an assistant to block messages because they are busy making business results, very quarterly driven. So what you don't want to waste his time, and you don't want to do something that he has seen over and over and over and over again. So when you target him with a video message and you think that creating your webcam on, I was very sad that we couldn't make the professional camera on, it didn't work, but we do everything HD quality, the best of the best, for the reason you have one shot. Absolutely. If you mess this up just because you want to do a quick video, just because it's convenient, or you have a tool which can record it and embed it straight in the email, this will not convert better. It is just make it more convenient, but the thing is not in the video. The thing is in messaging, in grabbing the attention, in smiling at the right moment, in silencing at the right moment, in creating a call to action that he says, wow, I like it so much. Peter, take a look at this. Mary, take a look at this. Herbert, take a look at it. He's selling it for you. He's selling it for you. And when you can get to this level, when the decision maker sells it for you and say, Peter, speak with this person, that's a business.
Yeah, like, the deal is pretty much done. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. And where do you see it going for yourself? I mean, obviously you're now serial entrepreneur, you're author. It must have been really rewarding knowing that full journey, knowing that 3,000 euros island story, to have a book published where you can share share what you've learned along the way. Hugely rewarding.
If it wouldn't be for the challenges, obstacles, and failure, the outcome would be not like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If
the only
life
reason.
had just been, I wouldn't necessarily hand it to you, but if circumstances were different and you lived in California, sun's always shining, and you go and work for one of the tech companies, and then because you've worked for that one tech company, it's easy to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's generally what people do. They bounce. They do if you look at people's LinkedIn and how long they've been at companies, you can see they've done 9 months here, a year and a bit there, maybe 2 years here. Even the executives now, the C-level, you see them bouncing from company to company every 2 to 3 years.
Who did create 9 till 5? Who did create 9 to 5? 9 till 5 was not around 90 years ago. It was Ford Motor Company. They said, you give me 30 years of your life, I give you 30 years of pension. Nobody's questioning this. Nobody's questioning this. So what's currently going on, when you reach the 250,000, 500,000, and you are employed, you cannot get to the 15 million annually. It is impossible. Or you are 50 years and the CEO of Coca-Cola. To go from 21 to 50, from 50 to 100, from 100 to 250 is possible. But you cannot get to 5 to 15 to 20. So ultimately, what is then the goal? You can only wear one watch at a time, drive one car, sit in one airplane, eat one meal, wear one suit, one tie, wear one headset. So what is then the goal? What is next? It is giving. Because when you start give without expectations, and what you are doing with this whole series is giving without expectations, sharing without expectations, that's when great things are happening. So when we grow as human beings because of the stuff we do, of the books we read, of the countries we visit, of the cultures we see, and we can then share it with other people, even inspire them in such a situation where people are scared. Warren Buffett said the greatest moment to start a business is when others are fearful. When others are fearful, you got to be greedy. When everybody was greedy, I had friends of mine, everybody $500,000 Lamborghini, every single one. I could do this 3 years ago, no problem. I was driving home on the bus when I was earning 21,000 a month because I was saving. The company we started is no outside investors. It's all my own capital, all our own risk, because I believe when you start a company, you can do angel investment, you can do families, you can do VCs, bunch of things. But when you truly start a company, you want to have control. And when you take outside investors, you take money to then again need to make decisions with other people, with board members, etc.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm in the same situation. Connecting Business doesn't have any outside investments, and I guess it's easier to do that when the product is experience and time. So a consulting business, for example, where you don't have to manufacture something, you haven't got premises, a shop, a warehouse, you've got equipment to buy, you've got components to ship in, all that kind of stuff. That's really difficult, but it's only difficult, it's not impossible, it's only difficult to do without a big chunk of investment. Even if it's your own investment, it's a big risk there. From a consulting standpoint, it would be, I think, crazy to get outside investment to start a consulting business.
It depends. It depends. Look, when you look at our website, when you look at the marketing material, when you look at the stuff that we do with clients, one video can easily cost 5,000. One website could easily cost 12,000. When you want to make it on such a scale that a CIO, chief marketing officer, comes in your business and say, man, I mean, look at the logo. When I put, do you see which letters do you see in the logo? When you look at this logo, do you see which one else?
I see an I, well, God, an L. I see all sorts.
There is a V, there is an A on the top right, there is an N on the top left, and there is an X within the middle.
Yes.
This design, it is small details, but the small details, they sum up over time. How well is your production? How well is your corporate identity? How well is your marketing campaign? How well actually do customers get value from this? When somebody comes and train people in sales training for 2 days, we don't do this. It goes in 1 year in and 1 year out. When you support them over 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, I know you do great consulting in your space. It is a long-term project, because that's where the true fruits are at the end for the client. And that's where the referral is business big. That's where we are. I mean, when we started out, we had within the first 8 weeks over 80 people on Google giving us 5-star. 80 people. I mean, there's other corporations, they don't have this at all. Any restaurant. Try to find a company that is in the service business that have more than 5 people in front of the camera giving testimonials without paying them. It's not a lot.
Yeah, there's always that, you know, they're doing the case studies where you've got your client to basically talk about what you've asked them to talk about. It's very rare you get somebody that wants to come on because you've delivered over and above. You've been passionate, you've really supported them, and they feel compelled without being asked to say, hey, you know, I want to give you some support and some credit back, and I want to record a video and I want to do it in my own words. You know, that kind of feedback, that kind of marketing, you can't buy that. You can't pay for authenticity and sincerity in a case study. So yeah, Roland, wow, you're one of very few people that I feel like I could record a 5-hour one of these, but alas, we must draw it to a close. I'm delighted that Steve Burton did bring us together on the LinkedIn platform. It's the power of that platform. So it does have some good, albeit I'm not a fan of the fact that it's turned into Facebook. But yeah, I'm delighted that you've shared this story with us. Congratulations on what a wonderful journey that you've come through. I'm definitely going to be engaging with your business for my business, looking at these videos and how you can help me. And I highly recommend everybody that's watching and listening to this episode to reach out to Roland on LinkedIn and connect with him and his company and see how he can help your business go to the next level. So Roland, thanks so much for joining us today on Business Source.
Guys, just do it.
Good man.